You've got ideas for days, but if you're honest, sometimes they're everywhere all at once. That's the life of a creative and cultural visionary. You see the world differently, you notice beauty, you notice story, you notice meaning where other people just see the surface. And you can imagine things that don't exist yet. Not only can you imagine them, but you can also bring them to life. But let's keep it real. Without structure, your gift can work against you. Your creativity can burn you out, keep you scattered, and leave you with a ton of unfinished projects. So, today we're going to talk about how to protect your creative flow and give it just enough structure so it actually builds something real, something that lasts. Okay. So, if this is you, you probably recognize this in yourself. You thrive on inspiration, right? Music, colors, textures, conversations, just the energy of people overall. And later on, we're going to talk about, the importance of willpower, because you can have all the inspiration and motivation in the world, but without willpower, again, we'll get into that. You love to start new things, right? So again, the first thing that you may be able to recognize is thriving off of inspiration. You absolutely love to start new things, and you're able to see the connections between ideas. You're able to see the connections between, concepts that people would have never put together, right? That's your superpower. And you bring a wow factor. You bring a little razzle dazzle. You shape culture as a creative and cultural visionary. You create things that inspire other people to move, to think, and or to feel. But here's the challenge, okay? The challenge is that same imagination that makes you brilliant can also keep you from finishing. I want to say that again. The same imagination that keeps you brilliant, that makes that beautiful mind of yours just so amazing, can also keep you from finishing. You have too many open tabs. And I'm not just talking about on your computer. Again, I'm talking about your mind, your beautiful brain, that beautiful mind of yours. All right. So I want us to explore some signs that help us recognize that we're in the chaos zone. So we're going to go over some signs, and you let me know if this sounds familiar. The first one is that you have about 5 projects that you're working on, and you've probably been working on them for a long time, and because they're not finished, right? So you have 5 projects that are started, but they're not finished. Another sign is that you're always almost ready to launch. And that almost ready to launch is because, oh, I just have one more tweak over there. I just have one more change over here. And again, it just keeps you in a cycle of always starting, but never completing anything. Another sign is that you get inspired by someone else's project, and suddenly your project is on the back burner. Another sign is you put off all the boring stuff. And the boring stuff includes budgeting properly, setting up timelines so you can complete things in a timely manner, creating systems, and you put those on the back burner until the very last minute. All right. The other sign is that you feel drained by doing repetitive tasks, right? Yawn, boring, right? Okay. And then the last one, and this is very important, and I had to learn this the hard way too. You say yes to too many collaborations. You say yes to too many opportunities because you genuinely love creating with people, but then you're overbooked and exhausted, which then can make you look a little bit unreliable. And that's never good. All right. And again, it's not because you're unreliable. It's not because you're lazy, the reason why you don't finish these tasks. It's because you've been running your creativity with no boundaries. You've been running your creativity with no container. And here's the truth, family. All right. Creativity without structure, it eventually turns into chaos. I want to say that again. Creativity without structure eventually turns to chaos. And we don't like chaos. Who likes chaos? Raise your hand if you like chaos. I don't, not really. So, again, I want to circle back to this word structure. We've been talking about it in the other two videos, okay? Or in the other videos. Some of us hate the word structure because you think it's going to kill your creativity. But here's the thing. Structure doesn't limit your freedom. It doesn't limit your creativity. It actually protects it. All right. So a lot of us hear this term, I just want to go with the flow. I'm gonna just let things flow. I'm gonna just flow. I'm gonna just flow. I'm gonna just flow. But I want you to think about a river. All right. I want you to think about a river that has no banks, meaning, you know, the soil, the earth on both sides of this stream, this river of water, right? So you have this river that doesn't have any banks and the water just floods everywhere, right? And so think about what that does. A river with no banks, right? But when you have banks for that river flows with direction. So the banks doesn't constrict, it doesn't block, right? It doesn't put any kind of obstruction in the river. It just simply gives it direction. So this is the same thing with your creativity. So now that you know when you work best, because again, we've already explored energy management, meaning that you understand the difference between what time of day that you are most creative and then what time of day you really need to be focused on admin work. So now that we are past that point, right? And if not, please look at the other videos. Let's talk about how to choose what to work on first. So I'm going to give you two methods that you could use right now. And again, go ahead and click the links in the description because I'm going to give y'all some downloads. Y'all give y'all some tools. So the first one, it was created by this person. I don't know if it's Day or Die Clegg, but you know, I like to learn from other people and I'm always going to give credit. So this is called the Moscow method, right? Now, the Moscow, the real focus points are the M, C, S, and W. The O's are just so you can pronounce it. So the Moscow method, again, not the city, but the acronym. So the M stands for must have. The S stands for should have. The C stands for could have. And then the W stands for won't have. And when we say won't have, that simply means for now. So I want to be very clear. A lot of creative and cultural visionaries, we have all these ideas and we think if we don't complete them now, if we don't get into them now, it just won't happen at all. But I would like for us to reframe that. It can still happen, just not right now. Okay. So here's how it works. I want you all to write down everything you want to create or work on. And then we're going to sort each of these into 4 buckets. All right. So let's review. The must-haves. These are very critical. If it doesn't get done, the whole project fails. So really take some time, right? And again, this is after you've written down everything that has to get done. No matter, like, I don't want you to think about the order of importance right now. I just want you to get a sheet of paper and just write down everything that has to get done. All right. And again, as you're looking at everything you wrote down, the must-haves, what is critical, when you look at this task or these tasks in this box, again, ask yourself, how will the project succeed if this does not get done? Okay. So again, must-haves. If it doesn't get done, the whole project fails. The should-haves. The should-haves are important, but not as urgent as the must-haves. Okay. The should-haves can wait until after the must-haves are completed. I want to say that again. The should-haves are important, but they're not urgent, right? So again, this is really helpful once you are able to say, look, I have this project, right? I have this project, it needs to get done, and this is the deadline that it has to be done by. All right. And again, in other lessons, other courses, other materials will really help you with time blocking as well, creating some kind of calendar for yourself. All right. But right now, we want to make sure we are prioritizing what we need to focus on. All right. The could haves are nice. It's amazing. It's cool, right? It's cool. But these are nice extras if there's time, because remember, the must-haves are of high importance. These are your number ones. These have to get done, or else the project just won't be successful. The could-haves are not as important as the should-haves. Okay, the again. It's important, but isn't as urgent as the must-haves. So again, the could-haves are nice if there's extra time, but it's not really deal breakers, right? It's not going to mess up the productivity flow. It's not going to mess up the project if it does not get done in that time frame that it needs to get done by. The won't haves, again, it just simply means this time. It just simply means not now, right? You've already agreed it's the least important for this round, okay? So this is really good for creatives. And I want to be clear, when I say creatives and cultural visionaries, number one, no matter what your primary archetypal energy is, you have all of them in you. And each archetypal energy shows up in different scenarios, right? And if you're not strong or not in that particular archetypal area, sometimes you're going to delegate, sometimes you're going to outsource. But most importantly, as you're going through building your business, as you're going through accomplishing the goal, it's really important for you to recognize which part of yourself, meaning which archetypal energy, needs to come forth right now. Also, I want to say that creative and cultural does not mean you have to be a painter. It doesn't mean you have to be a musician. It doesn't mean you have to be some sort of visual or performing artist. Even people in the tech field, even people in the left brain field, in left brain industries, meaning super analytical, systematic, detail oriented, are still creatives. You know why? Because you have to creatively problem solve. Okay. So again, just because it's not what we know as artsy, doesn't mean you're not creative. So I want to be very clear on that. So again, this works for creatives because it lets you capture all of your ideas without letting the lower priority stuff steal your energy from what matters most. All right. So again, for the particular method of the Moscow, go ahead and download that worksheet in the link, and again, let us know how it works for you. All right. The second method, fly like a bird. All right. Now this is from Sarah Leach. I forgot which industry she's in, but again, I just always want to give credit to those whose tools I'm also using and talking about. So this particular method, because a lot of creatives are visual beings, right? So this is, or a lot of people, again, are visual. So this is for those of us who need to see it, who need to feel it, okay, and who need to move with it, not just make a list. Some of us, again, are brain based, some of us are body based. So I'm almost always going to try to give you tools for both learning styles. All right. So fly like a bird. I want you to imagine, okay, you're an eagle. And by the way, I have to say this. In transpersonal studies, we definitely learn about this, the beautiful eagle archetype, mainly because what an eagle does is really soar over the landscape so that they're able to see everything, right? Not be inside of the landscape, because now your view is limited, but when you're flying over the landscape, you're really able to see the whole picture, right? So I want you to imagine that you're this eagle flying over your creative landscape. And what you are doing is, the purpose of this exercise is you're looking for the most important prey to swoop down on. So here's what you're going to do. All right. The same way you created the list, you just brain dumped all the things that you needed to do. You're going to do the same thing, or just, use the list that you made from the first exercise, and you're going to write down each task, each idea or project on separate pieces of paper. All right. So even if it's one big piece of paper and you got to tear it up, just make sure that each idea, task, or project are on separate pieces of paper. And then I want you to spread these pieces of paper out on the floor. Okay. Step 3 is take a step back. You can walk around them. You can look from different angles. Another thing that I like to do, because I can be extra sometimes, I'll stand on a chair, just get on my tippy toes, right? And look down, because the point is to have the eagle vision, the eagle eye view, right? And then once you're looking at this creative landscape of these ideas, these tasks, these projects, ask yourself, what stands out the most? Which one is pulling you the most in that moment? All right. So when you identify those, swoop down on it. Those are your top priorities. All right. When you swoop down on it, I want you to turn it over. Okay. And when I say swoop down on it, that means you've completed the tasks. All right. So once you've identified the ones that are pulling most to you, right? Swoop down. That's your top priority. Turn it over when it's done, and then fly over again, choosing the next one. All right. So this exercise turns prioritizing into something physical. It turns prioritizing into something intuitive instead of a just to-do list. And for creatives, this is really a game changer. And I know for me, lists don't always work. I have to get my body into it. So this has been a very, very good exercise for me to do. So again, I don't want us to feel like we're choosing between creativity and productivity. This is all about protecting our creative energy by focusing it where it matters most. And whether you're using the Moscow chart or the fly like a bird method, the goal is the same. Deciding what matters, finishing it, and then freeing your mind so that you can prepare for what's next. Okay. And again, this all goes back to when you're choosing these priorities that you're swooping down on, I also want you to reflect back to those questions. How will it affect the whole landscape? How will it affect the whole project? How will it affect the goal? All right. Because sometimes we may be drawn to something that we consider as a priority. And then when we ask ourselves, all right, how is this going to affect the momentum? How is it going to affect the impact, right? Not just on the business or my vision as far as scaling it, but the people that I'm here to serve as well. All right. So these are important questions to really review. And again, as you join our private cohorts or working with me one-on-one or in group settings, we could definitely get into these modalities in more details. Okay. A very, very, very deep immersive experience. So now let's get into the mindset shift. Being a creative and cultural visionary, or just tapping into this part of yourself, it isn't just about making things. It's about making things that last. Okay. And that means honoring your gift enough to give it the container it needs. I want to say that again. This means honoring your gift enough to give it the container that it needs. Because you're not just a visionary. You're not just an artist. You're not just a culture creator, right? You're a builder, and everything that you create matters, right? Especially if it's with the intention to create an impact. Every great creative, every great cultural catalyst that you admire, they didn't just create. They also built systems around their creativity, which is still like creating systems. Okay, they created or built systems around their creativity so it can reach more people and last longer. All right, fam. So again, if you're listening to this and thinking, Yeah, this is me. Then here's your next move. I would like for you, if you haven't already, by this time you should have, nonetheless, take the free Visionary Archetype test. And again, it'll show you what part of your leadership needs attention right now so that we can continue to build brilliance without burnout. All right. The link is in the description. And once again, if you are ready to turn your ideas into a plan that actually scales, I want you to check out my Blueprint to Brilliance program. And this is where we're going to take your vision and give it the game plan that it deserves. All right. Which also gives you a peace of mind. Who can use a peace of mind? I know I can. I don't know about you. All right. So, hey, thank you for joining. This has been another Wellness Wednesday with Sharita Rael, the Vision Catalyst, where we trade overthinking for clarity and burnout for brilliance. So as always, stay aligned, stay empowered, and I'll see you next time.